Russian scandal. Special counsel Robert Mueller has a tough job. After all, how can you prove allegations of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russian officials to influence our 2016 presidential election when, from all evidence after a year and a half of investigation, it didn't happen? Naming Mueller to head the investigation was a huge error. His investigation should be shut down and Mueller sent home. This week's stunning revelation that Hillary Clinton and the Democratic National Committee funded the fake Trump/Putin dossier, filled with outright lies, exaggerations and misleading information, is the final straw. For it shows that not only were Hillary Clinton, the DNC, and her lawyer, Mark Elias, lying when they denied any involvement in the phony dossier, it showed that they were deeply, perhaps criminally, compromised by collusion with Russian officials. In Hillary's case, in 2009 she promised the Russians a reset, and then over the next 2 years proceeded to help them build their own mini Silicon Valley with U.S. funding and expertise, and approved the sale of Uranium One, a Canadian company that controls 20% of U.S.-based uranium supplies, to Russia's state-owned nuclear monopoly, Rosatom. If that isn't dizzying enough, then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, her husband former President Bill Clinton, and their Clinton Foundation charity took in millions of dollars from Russian entities and the grateful executives of Uranium One, who were taken over by the deep-pocketed Russians. It was a classic example of illegal pay-for-play, and yet neither President Obama's Justice Department nor his FBI found anything wrong with it. Fast forward to 2016, and Hillary and the DNC retained Fusion GPS to dig up dirt on Donald Trump. Fusion then hired former British spook Christopher Steele, a man who, as former head of the Moscow desk for Britain's MI6 intelligence agency, has deep espionage ties in Russia, to do research on Trump. What they got instead was innuendo, half-truths, distortions, exaggerations and just plain gossip, much of it from Russian sources. And yet, this phantasmagorical bit of research became the basis for a full-blown investigation of the Trump campaign's supposed ties to Russian officials and their interference in the 2016 presidential election. With each new revelation in recent weeks, it has become ever clearer that the collusion that took place wasn't on the part of Trump, but Hillary Clinton and the Democrats, who have been playing a double game with the Russians since at least Obama's first term. That's the real collusion here. Typical of how the progressive left works, they have accused their opponent of the very thing they are guilty of, colluding with a possible enemy. This is where Robert Mueller comes in. Mueller himself was head of the FBI from 2001 to 2013. But from 2009 to 2013, all sorts of alarms were going off over the apparent influence peddling by Hillary Clinton while serving as Secretary of State. The Justice Department, headed by die-hard leftist lawyer and Obama loyalist Eric Holder, did nothing. Nor did Mueller. Fast forward to 2016. Mueller's successor at the FBI, James Comey, did do something. He paid Fusion GPS, which received funding from Russian sources, for its bogus research on Trump. That research also became the basis for the equally bogus investigation headed by Mueller. Yet, as we said earlier in the week, it's now clear that the real Russian collusion was among Hillary and Bill Clinton, their Clinton Foundation, the DNC, Democratic operatives, and bagman John and Tony Podesta, Fusion GPS and James Comey. Not Trump and his campaign confederates. When a legal mistake of this magnitude is made, it must be undone. That's just what Congress is doing right now. In recent days, both houses of Congress have unveiled investigations into the Uranium One deal and possible pay-for-play deals at Hillary Clinton's State Department and her family Clinton Foundation. Just Thursday, Senator Chuck Grassley, the Iowa Republican, called for naming a special counsel for the Uranium One deal and the related financial shenanigans. He's on solid ground here. In a new Rasmussen poll, 51% of likely voters said they believe it's likely that Bill and Hillary Clinton or their close political associates broke the law in their dealings with Russia. In the meantime, however, the purely political investigation of Trump led by Mueller since the start of this year has gone nowhere. It should be ended immediately, and not just because they've found nothing or that the original basis for the investigation has been tainted by being funded by the Democrats, FBI, and Russians. We have nothing personal against Mueller, who led the FBI's shift toward counterterrorism in the immediate years after September 11. But as special counsel, Mueller has conflicts all over the place, including his personal ties to Comey, who was Mueller's favorite to succeed him at the FBI in 2013, and by the fact that he headed the FBI during the time that Hillary was engaged in soliciting donations, selling access to the office of the Secretary of State, and officially approving the highly questionable Uranium One deal. In addition, the very premise of the Russian investigation has been proven faulty, based almost entirely, at least initially, on a politically motivated opposition research operation run by the Democrats against Trump, and later picked up by the FBI's Comey. Based on this, it's time to let Special Counsel Robert Mueller go, and dismantle the Russian investigation he leads.
Roger Stone is a longtime Republican political consultant. He worked for President Trump for decades. He advised his campaign, a number of his campaigns, actually. Today, Stone testified for more than 3 hours before the House Intelligence Committee about his alleged ties to Russia and the ties between the Trump campaign and Russia, allegedly. In his opening statement, Stone accused Democrats on the committee of, quote, falsehoods, misstatements, and misimpressions. An exhausted but cheerful Roger Stone joins us tonight. So, Roger, no matter what you say, people are going to say, that didn't really happen. Where can I've been looking all day for a transcript of this. It took place before a committee in the Congress. How can I get an official transcript of what happened?
Well, unfortunately, I don't think you'll ever be able to get a transcript. That's my whole point, which is the Democrats on the committee had no trouble savaging me and the president in public, saying, oh, Stone knew about the hacking of John Podesta's email. I did not. Stone knew about the content of the WikiLeaks disclosures in October. I did not. Stone colluded with somebody called Goosefer 2.0. Ludicrous. I did not. They say all these things in public. Stone worked for the Kremlin, one congresswoman said. Stone has worked for Russia. All these things false. They say them in public, but then they won't afford you the same opportunity, saying, oh, you have to testify behind closed doors, and we won't release the transcript. I
thought the Republicans were in charge of Congress,
well,
aren't they?
You would think. Look, the fair American way would be allow you to face your accuser in a public forum, to allow you to respond in the same forum in which the accusations were made. That's why I said today, President Trump is absolutely right. This is a witch hunt. This is a scandal without facts or evidence.
So you were in a colloquy with Congressman Schiff of Burbank, California.
Yes.
And you've kind of insulted each other. He's, as you just said, accused you of colluding with the Russian government. What was that exchange like today?
It was pretty intense. I mean, the most interesting thing that happened today is I made the case in my prepared statement and in the question and answer period that I do not believe there is any solid evidence that the DNC was actually hacked, never mind hacked by the Russians, and that the cornerstone of that is that the Democratic National Committee refused to let the FBI examine their servers, preferring to have a company that was paid and directed by the DNC, CrowdStrike, do so. Congresswoman Spire actually said that's not true, and then Congressman Schiff agreed with her, to which Trey Gowdy pointed out that former FBI Director Comey and Secretary Johnson of Homeland Security had both testified under oath to this very committee that that was the case, which means somebody is lying.
I think that is the case. That's what we know as of right now.
Absolutely.
Do you fear getting indicted in this?
No, not at all.
Do you think Paul Manafort will be indicted?
I can't say. I'm not aware of any wrongdoing by Paul Manafort. I most certainly have never colluded with the Russians. Look, I'm a Trump loyalist. I still think Donald Trump has the potential to be a great transformative president, and I think all of this is an effort to destabilize and delegitimize his presidency. But they're empty-handed. They have nothing.
Really quickly, why, if this were a democratically controlled Congress, do you think there would be hearings like this into a Democratic president?
Absolutely not. Look, this is an excuse. They have to come up with some excuse as to why Hillary Clinton spent $2 billion, had the support of the old media, the mainstream media, had the support of the new media in the sense that Yahoo and Google are rigging their algorithms to her benefit, and she still lost. She got outworked, outfoxed, outcampaigned by Donald Trump, and they just don't want to accept it.
I tend to think that's right. Roger Stone, thanks a lot.
Great to be here. Many thanks, Tucker.